Hi, welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode 84. The thing we're going to be talking about today is knowing when to ignore color and will it make your photos stronger. Hi, my name is William Beem.
Hi, my name is Lee Beem.
And before we get to that topic, let me let you know that show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 84. And of course, you can find a transcript of the show there for free. Links to subscribe are going to be there, and at photoflunky.com, there'll be a player there that will let you listen to our previous episodes too. Also, I want to let you know that On One has some free Lightroom presets, and I've got a quick link for you. Just go to williambeem.com/on1lrpresets and check them out. There'll be links to that on the show notes as well. So the idea is knowing when to ignore color and how will it make your photos stronger. What we really were kind of talking about is an article that I did a while back, and it was called The Dominance of Color.
I remember that.
First off, I love color. I really photograph in color and for color most of the time. That's kind of really what to me is making a lot of my artistic statement is how I use color in my photographs. And by using color, I'm looking for specific elements. I'm looking for color contrast. I'm looking for complementary colors. I'm looking for something bold or a statement.
Yes.
But there are photographs where that just really doesn't work. Lee, when you're shooting, I know we talked previously about a lot of your product photography stuff. I know you love your details, but is color important to you when you're shooting it, or are you shooting for the subject?
I'm shooting for the subject, and because I'm shooting for the subject, color is important to me. So, yep, color is important. In fact, color is one of the key factors in me putting a photo together. Where I use black and white is not so much to take a black and white photo, but it's more about having a neutral, non-conflicting or non-competitive background. So I will have black or white or some shade in between in my background if I'm trying to isolate the subject. But as far as subjects go, I never ever shoot product photography in black and white, ever. I've got a, color is just something I gravitate towards. Color to me, it's expressive, it's vibrant, it's eye-catching, it draws you in, it creates a mood. It really tells a story. And I've evolved because there was a time when I was really into black and white photo, not to take it myself, but I thought, oh, well, black and white is all the rage. And looking back, I realized that was my only draw to it, was that it was all the rage. I didn't know anything about photography, and it was portrayed to be this kind of classy, almost like an upper level, oh, this is a beautiful black and white. And when I look at it now, I thought I never really liked any of the stuff. I just thought it was a trendy thing to do. So to keep up with everybody, you had to like some black and whites. Truthfully, one or two, occasionally something works in black and white and there's a time to use it and that will stand out to me. I'd say that is less than 1% of the time. On the whole, if I had to make a statement over it, I'd say it's not my preference. I don't really care for it.
And I think that's going to be the case for most people. And you're right. People do use black and white as a trend in cases sometimes where I think they shouldn't. I mean, one of the things I hate seeing is a very busy photo converted to black and white.
Well, landscapes don't belong in black and white.
No, I mean, if the land isn't beautiful, why are you photographing it in the first place? Converting it to black and white isn't going to help it.
No.
We'll get to kind of what we're thinking about for black and white. And what I'm looking at is for the elements of color. When I'm talking about color contrast, obviously we're talking about colors on opposite ends of the color wheel. You see this in movies all the time where they use that kind of teal and orange. The orange tone is kind of mimics skin tone, and then teal, background highlights it. It really works very well. But if you look at almost any movie poster, you're going to see this kind of color combination in use. But it's not the only color contrast that you can use. It's
not. I mean, there are various ways to work the color wheel.
And one of the other ones is, for symmetry and complementary colors, things that are kind of in the same family or the same ballpark.
And they work together. Yeah.
So those are things that I'm looking for when I'm shooting. It's like, in other words, is there some way that the colors are working together? And that's why if I were doing a landscape, depending upon the subject I'm shooting, the time of day matters. Like, do I want this under a bold blue sky, or do I want this under a nice orange or creamy kind of color of sunset?
It's a mood thing, really. It's your story.
It really is. And then sometimes you need bold color that just reaches out and smacks you in the face. And that can work with color contrast very well. So, for example, I've got a photograph of a musician on stage. He's wearing a bright red shirt, and the stage lighting behind him is blue. So he really pops out of that.
Yeah.
If I convert that to black and white, it just all muddles together.
Yeah, I was just looking at that a little while ago, and I thought, no, the black and white just doesn't work for me. There's no mood, there's no atmosphere, there's no story in there.
That's not to say that concert photography can't work in black and white. And, when I went to training for concert photography, one of the things that they told you is like, what do you do when the stage lights on someone's face just looks really awful? Oh, convert it to black and white. Because then you still have the light, you have the shadows and tone, but you don't have the awful color that's ruining somebody's skin tone.
Black and white will work if your color is the distraction in there to eliminate distraction. But if you've got a busy photo with too many colors or too much stuff, black and white is not a quick fix. You still have a busy photo with too much stuff.
Yeah, sometimes a bad photo is just a bad photo, and no amount of post-processing changes are going to fix that. It also depends if your subject is a shape. And this is a saying that I heard attributed to Jay Maisel, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but the sentiment
You're
is
not allowed to get it wrong.
It's not my
photo flunky.
It's not my quote, so I don't have to get it right.
Okay, fair enough.
Color is the enemy of shape, or is it shape is the enemy of color? Anyways, one of those, they're both enemies, so it doesn't matter, I guess, which way you put it.
No, that's true.
But the idea is if you really want to show a shape or a form, then the way to amplify that is to take out the color. Because sometimes the color is so overpowering, and that's kind of why I wrote that post, the dominance of color. You see the color instead of the shape that you want, and it takes away from it.
That's where contrast comes into play, because if you don't have your contrast accentuated, taking away the color alone is not good enough. You either want clean lines or some, stark contrasts of light and dark to draw you into that shape.
Yeah, I would say that you want high contrast so that you can have the shape. And by high contrast, it doesn't mean your subject has to be black and your background has to be white. I've got a portrait, that I really love. As a matter of fact, it's on my desktop right now, of a young model with her hair blowing in the wind on a black background. And it works better to me, in my mind, as a black and white than it does in color.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with it in color, but it's much more striking in black and white, particularly when you see the way the shadow drops off on her face and just the way she pops out of the black background. I think in black and white does a better job than it does in color.
I think so too with that one.
So it's not every photo. It's not every time that you have somebody, in front of a black background or a white background for that matter. I've done it the opposite way too, where I did a silhouette on white backgrounds. Sometimes when you really want to amplify the shape, black and white and simple contrast work best. And that way I'm just looking for simplicity of form. I'm looking for light and shadows, and I'm looking for contrast. To me, those are the photos I think that work best in black and white.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done the same thing with our dog, Milo.
Yeah, well, he's a white dog.
Yeah, Milo is a Labrador Retriever. He's very, very light yellow, which means, he's bred to be a white dog. And you look at him, you see a white dog. But if you look at him in a photo, you can see little bits of the yellow kind of coming back in. You convert him to black and white, and suddenly he's exactly what he looks like. And I shot him on a black background. It just works that much better. It is a very simple thing. Your subject is the only thing there on the black background. Black and white works extremely well for that. But if I did that with my golden retriever, it doesn't really work quite as well. The color is an important part of a different subject.
She's a golden retriever, not a black and white retriever.
Well, exactly. You rob some subjects of who and what they are if you take color away from them.
That's true.
I guess the decision of whether you're going to go from color to black and white really depends on what's the purpose of your photo. I mean, what is the impact that you're trying to make? In some cases, like I said, the musician with the red shirt and the blue background, he's got his little dramatic rock and roll pose going on, but it just loses all appeal when I take the color away from that. The story there is action and brash and bold. The color really hits that mood.
Well, as soon as it's black and white, it sucks the life out of the photo.
Well, that's because some of these colors that you see that complement each other very well in color, when you deprive them or desaturate them of all that color, well, then there's not much of that contrast between the red and the blue when you desaturate it. So you've got to have that contrast. If you don't have a contrast, you don't have a good black and white photo, in my opinion.
I agree.
And same thing with simplicity of form. I've seen photos that were very busy environments converted to black and white, and I thought, everything's just muddled together here.
Yeah. There's no subject.
No.
It gets lost in it.
So to me, black and white is contrast, simplicity of form, and then, light and shadows. That's really it. If you've got those things going together, then you have the potential, I think, for a good black and white photo. If you're just converting it to black and white to see how it looks, it probably looks like crap.
Most likely, yeah.
It is not artistic just because you've desaturated it.
I agree. I think that's the downfall that so many people have to wade their way through.
All right, so let me ask you this. Do you change the meaning of a photo if you remove the color?
Well, yes, I think you do, because you can take away the elements that you're trying to communicate by removing the color. You know, unless you physically see in black and white, naturally we are inclined to pick out things that stand out to us, and color plays an enormous role that we're not even always aware of how powerful it is in how we absorb stories and information and pick up on moods that are going on around us.
And I think that's also the time when you want to take away color, is when color becomes a distraction. If you take a look at the same photo or desaturate the color and take a look at the same photograph and it has a different meaning to you, suddenly the mood changes. Then you've got a powerful reason for going with black and white.
Yes.
And it could be that the mood is one thing with color and one thing with black and white. I particularly find that with portraits. But it's just a matter of what is the message that you're trying to send, and which way are you doing the best job of promoting the message?
Well, there's a fine line, I think, with the mood, with the black and white photo. If you have specifically taken that shot and set it up to get it to work with black and white, it can be seen as an objective thing, but I suppose because it lacks a certain amount of emotion. You don't get swayed by color, and we do get swayed by color, even though we're not aware of it. That is why these movie posters and these films use this contrasting color. It's, they lean more heavily one way or another depending on what they want you to feel. So yeah, black and white, I would see it as a bit more objective. I know that we've discussed it being used in a documentary style. That doesn't necessarily mean that always works best for a documentary style, however, and I do want to point that out. But that is an area where it certainly can work.
And that's one of the things, you're absolutely right about color being used to sway your emotion. I mean, if you look at movies, I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen enough clips so far of the Wonder Woman movie. And there's people even posting videos on YouTube about the use of color in that movie. And you can see it in the action scenes and some of the other scenes where they've got bright sunshine, other places where it's cold and kind of a blue color cast on things. They're affecting your moods by using the different color tones and color schemes within the movie. And it's a very powerful tool. You can do the same thing in your photography. And we've talked about that before, and I've got some of my videos that are showing how you can use like color lookup tables in Photoshop and so forth to either to bind things together or to sway your opinion of what the photo should be.
Yeah.
You take all of that away with stark black and white. But that's kind of what we're talking about, is knowing when to go with black and white, because color is a beautiful thing. I want most of my photos I'm taking with the mind that they're going to be in color. But every once in a while, you find something that is high contrast, simple in form, and has a good use of light and shadows. And I think those are the ones that are pretty much a good idea to break away from color.
Yeah, I can honestly say I don't recall ever framing a subject and thinking, I'm going to do this because it will work in black and white.
I think there are times, it depends on your genre of photography. For what you do, I think color is always going to be necessary for you, because you're shooting food photography. Can you imagine if you had bright colors like from lettuce and tomatoes, and then maybe you've got your lentils in there as a neutral color, or whatever else that you may have, or some of the fruits going on. Can you picture a basket of fruit and vegetables that was in black and white?
Well, whether symbolic or literal, my photos reflect my view on life. Everything is about life and being alive. There's some energy, and even if that energy lies on the relaxed side of the mood, I need color to depict the level of energy. And if it's low energy, then my color would sort of be used to communicate that and to put that mood across. So for me, black and white, unless I change into a totally different genre, is not going to change. I can quite confidently say that, having learned what I've learned through going through photography, I am not going to be swayed into falling into a trend and liking something because it feels appropriate to like it. I like it or I don't. And if I'm the only person who doesn't like something, I'm okay with that, because I am who I am.
I agree with you. And it's why we wanted to do this show, is simply because doing black and white for the sake of black and white, I think, misleads both the photographer and the audience.
Yeah.
There are times when you can do a really good black and white and it has an impact and a presence, but those times are going to be very diminished, I believe, compared to a good color photograph.
Yes.
Thank you very much for listening to the Photo Flunky Show. Show notes are going to be available at williambeam.com/episode 84. And of course, there's a transcript of the show there for free. We'd love it if you'd subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play Music, and Blueberry and others. We'll have links to subscribe on the show notes page. Thank you so much. If you got a thought on this, leave a note in the comments, and we'll get back with you. See you again next week.